Hey, welcome to Wolf's Watch. Part two of why your team is failing you. Yesterday we were talking about, do you really communicate effectively? Do you actually have it written out how to best work with you so that your team has clarity on how to communicate expectations and it sets the example for them to do the same? Here's the second point on this. Let me tell you a quick story. Um, I Earlier in my career, I was really, really good at what I did. I was involved in early days of Six Sigma and also with doing a lot of statistical analysis. I was a plant statistician for one company, excuse me, in our manufacturing facility. I co-authored the first Six Sigma program for a major aircraft manufacturer for one of their programs for one of their aircraft, and that meant doing a lot of the work. And I moved into a new position, and I had to then start changing my role, right? My role, which this is really tough for me. I'm a recovering engineer. Okay. My role shifted and it took me a while for my brain and my heart to catch up to it because I could no longer there was just too much to be done, too much responsibility, too many areas. And it took having responsibility for stuff that I had no technical background in, right? I had no technical expertise in it. I was not the subject matter expert, and I needed to then rely on people who were very, very good at what they were doing. It was a huge shift in thinking for me. And I still need to be aware of that to this day. Where am I thinking like a doer as opposed to a leader? That forced me to build trust and to allow them to do what they do very well, which meant there needed to be clarity on what it looked like when they finished, right? What does it look like when they cross the finish line? I've had Darren Hardy. Thank you so much for drilling that into me. What does it look like when they cross the finish line? And second, do they have the accountability and the authority to do it? Then let them run, right? I needed to let them do that. It was tough for me because there were some things that were still in my area of responsibility that I was very, very good at. So it was easy. Someone goes on vacation, I'll sit in that seat. Somebody's leaving the company, I'll take over that position for now, because it's easier for me to just jump in that chair, jump to that person's desk and add that to my already overpacked schedule. Right? Does this sound familiar? You've experienced some of this as an entrepreneur, as a leader. You've had some of this happen. I'm just saying, I'd be surprised if it didn't, at least somewhere in your journey, if not very recently. And instead of doing that, I needed to be thinking ahead and going, if this person leaves, my two most key people, the two people that have the biggest negative impact on all of us as a team being able to accomplish our objective, what would be the response to that? Who on the team could replace them? Who else in the company could reach out to in a larger organization, right? One of the advantages of a larger organization, you got more bandwidth in terms of people to go, hey, let's grab this person over in this department. They'd be a good fit for this role on this team to sit in for this person because they're out on vacation, out on medical leave. There's a death in the family, or they're, heaven forbid, they're going through some kind of personal struggle with their health or a spouse, or they get a better offer and they leave, right? So one of the challenges, you get really good people, guess what? They've got options, and sometimes they'll exercise them. They're getting recruited. If your team members are not getting recruited, does that mean perhaps a challenge thought for you, if I can offer something for your consideration, that your team is light and you don't have the right people on the team? Because if you've got a hot team, let me tell you, people are going to be recruiting them. They're going to be reaching out to them. They're going to be given opportunities, and they may go, they may stay. What are you going to do if they leave? And this is a recent conversation I had with someone who is in a leadership, high level leadership position, and is potentially going to lose 4 key people, which would be 40% of the team. 2 people are already out on medical, right? What picture does that paint for that person as a leader? If you have a situation like that, what is that saying? Or if you have one of your key direct reports, one of your key leaders on your team as an entrepreneur, what does that imply about how you need to coach them, work with them, so that things are getting done? So that people aren't leaving, or at least there's a backfill. So that's a bonus. The topic here, the part 2 issue here, is Are you trusting your team and letting them do what they do best? If not, why not? Because here's the bad news: as leader, that's on you. If you don't trust them, that's your issue, not theirs. Either you put the wrong person in the wrong position, it's not a good fit, they're not technically competent. Guess what? You have them in that position. You either put them in that position or they were in that position when you assumed that leadership role and you did not fix it, right? If they are not, for whatever reason, fit, you can't fix, right? You move them to another role on the team so that they are able to apply their gifts, do what they do best. If it's a competence issue, but they're a good fit, then you can coach them on building that competence. Now, again, do you trust them? Or when something goes wrong, if someone leaves, you're jumping in that chair. Here's a problem with that. For one thing, you don't have the time or the bandwidth. Second thing, that's not your role as leader. Third thing, and the most impactful, is that sends a clear message to your team. You don't trust them, you don't respect them, you don't think they're capable. Because if you did, you would be reaching into the team and saying, here, you cover this position. Whether it's temporary while someone's out dealing with an issue, or a little longer term, but still interim while you are recruiting a new person for that position. That's also a great way to develop people. Here's another bonus. Why aren't you putting people in an assistant to role in order to develop them so that when someone does leave, you've got depth, you've got bench depth, you've got more strength on your team. They have a better perspective, even if they never take that role, they've got a better perspective on what to take to actually do that management job, that leadership job, right? As leaders, as owners of our companies, as entrepreneurs, as C-suite, we've got two primary roles: strategy for the business, developing the people in the business that are necessary to implementing that strategy. Are you executing on that? If you don't have trust, then you can't do that. You can't do the people development part. Major failure. Your team is going to crash and burn, or your company is going to crash and burn if you do not have that trust. You need to work on that internally, but also with the people, because there are things that people do that make it hard to trust, right? I've experienced that. I've had people stumble and break my trust because they didn't deliver on a commitment or they changed on something. And it's like, going, whoa, wait a minute, what's this about? We needed to work that through on teams. And sometimes we worked it through. There's always miscommunication involved on my part in that, and misunderstanding. We still worked it through. Sometimes they departed the team as part of the work through. So just think about that. Are you trusting your team and developing them so that when someone leaves, you've got depth in your team to pull someone in? You can bring another more junior person in that is a great fit, is great talent, and then can then be mentored to develop the skills at higher level of mastery for your team. Food for thought. Thanks for being part of Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf. This is part 2 in the series we're doing on why your team fails, sometimes with a Z, sometimes with an S, depending on what part of the world you're from. Why your team fails you. I'll see you on the trail. And look, man, another beautiful sunset here in the background. Holy cow. What a great day.